Hey gang, welcome back to the channel.
We are in Tucson now.
Tucson, Arizona.
Trying to chase the warmer weather.
Warmer weather and Mexican food.
Yes.
But today, we're heading over to the Titan II History Museum. As we all know about the Cold War.
Yep, and they have one of those silos there too, which we actually are going to be getting a tour of inside.
We're going down. You know, Dwight likes big things, doing big work, and what can get more than a missile that can deliver a 9 megaton thermonuclear weapon in 30 minutes, 6,000 miles, right?
Whoa.
Yeah, big time. So we're heading over there now. So come on along, and I hope you guys enjoy with us.
This is going to be great.
Hey gang, thought I'd start the video off with a little bit of Cold War history. As we all know, we bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II to end the war, but they're held in the nuclear age for sure. As time went on, the two superpowers, America and the USSR, became extremely, how shall I say, suspicious of each other. Joseph Stalin, and then coming up you'll see President Truman. They both had their ideas of how things should be. Stalin, definitely communist throughout. Truman wanted to stop communism in its tracks. So the Truman Doctrine, as we call it today, or has been called for many years, was all about stopping the spread of communism. You can see some of the early blasts maybe out at the Bikini Atoll out in the South Pacific with some nuclear tests, atomic blast tests. And that was proving grounds and to show the world that we were here. And Russia, of course, in the early days, always wanting to show their power and their might, always displaying their latest missiles. And we grew up as an age of kids learning how to hide under desks and being fearful of what the other side might do. We learned how to work with a society and a world that could very well end at any given moment. Civil defense was the word of the day. Every community had a civil defense contingent, I'll say. And then, of course, bomb shelters were always in our life, always talked about. Families learned how they might survive underground for an extended period of time, things that they might need to bring, things they may need to have with them for, again, an extended period of time. So it was definitely a world that was changing in the 50s, right? 50s and 60s. So then we move on to different things that we thought about. Gas masks, you know, we learned that from World War I and World War II, that those are weapons that can be used. And fallout shelter signs. To this day, we still see them, of course. Not very often, every now and again, but in the 50s and 60s, they were everywhere. All your schools, police stations, all your big buildings had a fallout shelter sign. We in communities learned to listen to sirens that were once used for like fire department stuff. And now most of them are used for tornadoes and things in some of the states. President Kennedy meeting with Nikita Khrushchev over maybe the Cuban Missile Crisis, maybe just the arms race, not sure, but definitely there's another picture of Russia, again, always wanting to show their might and let the world know that they were here and they weren't going to take any guff, I guess, from anybody. But always, that was another test, maybe, again, out the Bikini Atoll area. I'm not 100% sure all these tests took, but that's definitely in the southern Pacific Islands, it looks like. We did a lot of testing out there. There's our favorite diplomat, Ronald Reagan, Vice President Bush, talking to Mikhail Gorbachev, and maybe pre-SALT treaties. Mr. Reagan's speech from the Brandenburg Gate at the Berlin Wall. And again, we know Berlin was the epicenter, if you will, of the Cold War. Then working some things out and again, signing the SALT II, I believe they were called SALT II agreements, or strategic arms limitation treaties. So, and then we got, you know, what the guys and girls were doing down below. They're manning the silos that could very well end the world. Big crews, usually I think there was four per shift. They work 24-hour shifts, kind of much like firefighters. But these are the folks that were down below guarding our safety. There's a Titan II sitting in a silo waiting to go. So let's go get on this tour and kind of see how the whole system worked, guys. As we enter the museum, pretty cool where we got registered and everything for the tour. They've got a lot of great stuff on display. What's right there in front of you, that's actually the payload capsule where the nuke would have been carried on a Titan II. But along this wall, as we enter to the left, they have an entire algorithm, if you will, of the entire Cold War, from the beginning of rockets to begin with Mr. Goodard, all the way up to deciding and the dismantling of all of our nuclear arsenals. A lot of the different uniforms that were worn, some of our space program that the Titan II was part of, parts of the Titan II rockets that are there. Such a great place to visit to start getting an idea of what you're getting ready to see underground. Coming up here, those are the locations of all of the Titan II missile silos in the Tucson area. And the one we're in, 571-7, was in used from 63 to 82, I believe it was. And so anyway, like we said in the beginning, 9 megaton thermonuclear warhead. Holy cow. 900 square miles. These things are just unbelievable. And that, I'm sure that's not what we have today. I'm sure it's a lot bigger today than it was back then. So pretty cool to know this information. Third-degree burns at a distance of 25 miles. And just on a side note, they could have these nuclear warheads detonate above in the air or as they hit the ground. So they could do a lot of different things with them. As we made our way into the briefing room, they had nice videos, a lot of stuff going on there. So I'm going to shut up and let you guys kind of listen to a little bit.
And for future use as a space booster. To meet those requirements, the Department of Defense, through the Air Force, requested specific proposals from major defense plants. Then, for launching, they would be raised to the surface by an elevator lift built by American Machine and Foundry of New York. Because our nation will never strike a first blow, we must deter aggression with a counterforce, which in a showdown can withstand an initial onslaught and then strike back with the power to prevail and to win. That national security insurance was paying off the first dividends on the investment of planning, of effort, and public funds. Titan's second flight test went perfectly too. So did the third and the fourth. This was a record never achieved before. Since flight tests are designed to test details of performance that can't be tested in any other way, all this was good. But most important of all, the basic planning of the Air Force Systems Command and its Ballistic Systems Division was proving itself out by moving steadily forward. Atlas, at first unprotected from attack, following Titan steps, had been advanced to a hardened silo from which it will be raised to the surface to take the light ICBM Minuteman's fire from the hold capability of reacting almost instantaneously and combine it with our mightiest missile's extreme long range and its strike-back power capable of destroying any hardened target. Then, SAC would have a new weapon, even more effective and versatile.
We've been led into a room for orientation.
It's the briefing room.
Oh, it's the briefing room. And Sharon, I've always told people she's probably got launch codes up there in the front of the RV. And today, I get to prove it. Stand by.
We'll be spending the next 24 hours standing as an alert crew in a actual Titan II missile silo complex like the one you see on the screen behind me. Like any other alert crew, we will begin our alert with a briefing. We'll cover a little bit of history of the Cold War and the role of the atomic bomb in that conflict. We will then head outside to a rather unassuming hole in the ground. That hole will lead us into this complex right here.
Welcome to the Titan Missile Museum. You're about to tour Complex 571-7. This site was operational from 1963 to 1982 and was one of 18 silos here in the Tucson area. Before going on the tour, we're going to watch a brief video explaining the Cold War and the part that the Titan II intercontinental ballistic missile played in it. The Cold War developed in the late 1940s after World War II, when distrust rose between the United States and the Soviet Union. These former allies were now in a geopolitical fight for global influence. A key part of the Cold War was an arms race between the world's two superpowers. The focal point of the battle for military superiority was nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them. Both sides developed what became known as a nuclear triad, which is an integrated system of delivering these destructive payloads by air, sea, and land.
Our briefing done, let's go ahead and head off to work.
All right, Sharon, you got the football? We're gonna need the codes. Nice.
7498.
Okay, that's it.
I shouldn't have said it out
Oh,
loud.
Jesus. Now Kremlin's gonna know. Thanks, Sharon.
About 25 miles down a dirt road from Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. And it's right over there, at that gate, where our 4-man crew would have encountered the first real obstacle on their way to work. A locked gate.
As we made our way down into the silo complex, you could start to feel how the crews that were down there for 24 hours, you didn't know what was going on up top. We walked down 54 stairs to the level of the actual launch room, I'll call it. And they had 3 minutes to do this. The crews had 3 minutes from the checkpoint at the gate to the next checkpoint down right outside the first of 3 blast doors. And if they didn't make it there, I'm not sure, we didn't get into what would happen, but they did have 3, and that was all part of the process of securing the facility at shift change. And you can see we come up on the first blast door there.
It would not have been. Let's assume we made it down those concrete steps inside the 3-minute limit. Our commander must then make another phone call and enter through that blue door. Only he and he alone may enter, and he will emerge into the entrapment area. Our shoulders. That if called upon, it is our solemn duty to end life on Earth as we know it. And with that happy thought bouncing around inside of our heads, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about our home away from home. We are 35 feet below ground. These walls are up to 8 feet of reinforced concrete, capable of surviving a 300 psi blast. Your house will explode into matchwood with a 5 psi blast.
As we make our way in through the first blast door, you can see how thick those walls are as we walk underneath the opening. This, again, is going to be the first of 3 blast doors. First of 3 blast doors. We've got 2 more to go, and part of this is part of that containment area our tour guides spoke of, to where they could trap a crew coming in if things weren't right. But as we make our way through the complex, it's amazing the intricacy of what it took to create this underground world 35 feet below grade and have it function on a 24-hour basis. Now, we didn't get to see the crew quarters, but there are crew quarters down here, along with, of course, the room we're walking into, which is the launch room.
Take a seat, please use the bench.
There's Sharon's seat over there. I can see it.
That's my office.
That's your book, the one I always see you with right
Hey
there.
folks, we do have a few more people coming on in, so try to come on. We are in fact earthquake proof on top of everything else. Not bad for something designed by a slide rule, now is it? And a few of you know what a slide rule is. Now, I'm going to need a couple of volunteers. Now, before the MPs show up to drag these 2 off to the break, let's go ahead and meet them. Start with this gentleman right here. He is our MCCC. Our Missile Combat Crew breaks. They're the one fixing it. The other is a graduate of the academically why it broke, how it broke, and most importantly, how we can fix the thing. The average age of an enlisted person down here would have been 18 to 19. Imagine this being your first job out of high school or college. My first job out of college was working at a Target stocking shelves. You launch on us, we launch on you, and in about an hour, everybody's dead. And because everybody's dead, nobody... Inside that safe, you will find 2 things. The first is a SIOP, basically America's playbook for ending the world. Is at Target 2. Knowing this, who then... Now it is open, now it is closed, you get the idea. There are 4 of these. 2 lead to our oxidizer tanks, 2 lead to our rocket fuel tanks. Delivering its last link to the outside world. Then the silo door of 470 tons. No likelihood we will never know if we were successful. You will hear a couple of loud alarms, so don't far apart they are. One last security measure. It takes 2 to turn those keys.
Here comes our deputy launch commander. Good job, Sharon. Just destroyed the world.
Unfortunately,
Do what you gotta do.
couples are not permitted to serve together inside of a society.
I bet they're not.
They are not permitted to do so. Now, Commander, you have one more job to do.
All right, take the camera.
May you confirm for us that the Titan II missile is still present and accounted for?
Yes, sir. The Titan II missile is present and accounted for.
Well, you heard the man nobody called The Hague. And just so you all know, you won't get cell coverage down here anyway. But what exactly is a Titan II ICBM? Simple. It is the biggest, baddest, gnarliest ICBM the United States military ever deployed. It stands 10 stories tall. That silo it's sitting in is another 5 stories on top.
As we got to wander around the silo area of the launch complex, it is amazing to see how big this rocket is. Again, it's a multi-stage rocket designed to carry a payload or deploy a payload 200 miles high, almost 6,000 miles down range. That's where the nuclear warhead would be, right in the very top. The doors above the silo would be weighed 740 tons. They have glass over the top now so you can look down inside of it from the outside, but what a massive, massive machine and a massive structure. It was incredible to see this. So let's go back inside for a minute and take a peek at some of the more displays we have in there.